Welcome back. In this video we're going to learn some basic watercolor techniques, how to use different brush strokes, and how to use different materials to give yourself different textures within your watercolor. Alright, you need some watercolor paper or cardstock, watercolor set, variety of paintbrushes, masking tape, rubbing alcohol, plastic wrap, paper towel or tinfoil, and some table salt. And our first step is to tape a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch border around our paper. Then run some tape vertically down the middle of your paper. Then across horizontally, giving us 4 boxes. Then divide 2 more times vertically with tape, like so. Giving us 8 boxes to work with.
Hello guys, welcome to Intro to Watercolor. Today we're going to practice different watercolor techniques, starting with a wash, dry brush, wet on wet, splatter, the use of rubbing alcohol, texturing, salt and its texturizing effects, and plastic wrap and its texturizing effects. Okay, so this is what I'm using. These are my watercolors here. And then here's my watercolor tray. Super messy, I know. So what I'm going to do to get started is I'm going to liquefy some of these colors. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to drop some water down using my brush. Okay. To liquefy some of these colors I might want to use during this practice. Okay. Now if you have just a conventional watercolor palette, that's fine for this. Basically the same thing I'm using, except this is just a little more pigmented than you would find in your standard set of watercolors. Like I'm talking like a Crayola set or a Pring set. Okay? Alright. Move that away. Alright, so to do a wash, which is our first rectangle here, I'm gonna use a flat brush like this, going into my palette here, gonna pull a little cerulean blue, sorry, Perusian blue, not cerulean, Perusian. And then I'm going to throw some color down. Back and forth. Okay. And then I'm going to try to transition from dark blue to light blue. All I'm going to do is add more water to my brush and bring it down. Okay. This is called a wash because we have more water to paint ratio in our paintbrush. So right here is the full color. Then right here, this is the Parisian blue after it's been washed with water. So it thins it down, makes the paper show through, the paint's more transparent. So we can do wash overlays over other colors to get certain effects. So if I came back over here with, let's say, a yellow, I'll wash some yellow over this. Okay, there's my yellow. I'm going to dip back into the water and continue washing that yellow out, so we get that transition from yellow to blue. Okay. So my next one is called the dry brush, and the dry brush, we use this for texturizing, for shading, for scumbling. There's all kinds of good effects we can use, okay? So on the dry brush stroke, what I have with watercolor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry my brush out, go into my color that has some liquid, and then I'm just going to scrape it, leaving texture. Okay. So you should be able to see the texture of the bristles, like so. Okay. Use this to should do like some cross hatching maybe, or I use this with acrylic a lot when I'm doing landscape painting for like shading rocks, animal fur, clouds, etc. Okay. Okay. So next one is called wet on wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet my paper first with just water. Okay, get that nice and wet. Hopefully this paper holds up because it is just cardstock. It'd be better with pure watercolor paper, so you could, really get it wet. But I got to be careful because it is just index paper. So as you see, when I put a wet paint stroke down, it's going to spread the paint because the water is going to absorb that paint and move it around. It's going to bring it into itself. Okay, this is called wet on wet. Got a little yellow in there. As long as it's still wet, that yellow will mix into the red. Okay? See how that's blending in there? Just by dabbing a little blue on top of that. Okay? Okay, the next one is called Splatter. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into our paint. This is Parisian blue again, Parisian blue. I'm gonna use the tip of my brush and I'm gonna kind of flick it, like so. Okay, you get a mist or a splatter effect. Okay, a little bit more on there. This can get messy, so be careful you don't flick your shirt or somebody else's shirt. And if it's not flickering, you get a little more water on your brush. It's more fluid. Okay, see what cool texture that is? It's way cool texture. Okay, so the next one is our alcohol wash, or wash with the use of alcohol on it. And what we should see is the alcohol is going to lighten up the color where it hits. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is get it wet. Got a little blue in there already, oh boy. Okay, I'm going to go into some purple, throw that down. And you have to do it while it's still wet. It doesn't work if it's dry, okay? I just got a little rubbing alcohol in here. I'm gonna use this little dropper. If you don't have a dropper, you can just flick it on with a brush. And I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but it should start breaking that color up. I'm going to go ahead and throw a little more color in there. Let's see. See how that will push that color out. And you drop it onto it, get some cool effects that way. Yellow in there. Cool. All right, now the next box, I'm going to talk about using other materials for texturing. So I got some tin foil here, and then a paper towel. So what I'm going to do is this paper towel will act like a sponge, similar to a sponge. So what I'm going to do is I got my liquid paint, and you can use a dry paper towel or dip it in the water. What you can do is just dab on the color to get cool texturizing effect like this. Okay. Tin foil. That's what the tin foil does in things for us. Paper towel works pretty good. I haven't really tried tin foil with watercolors. See? Oh yeah. Definitely does something. Very similar to the paper towel, it's just a little more space. So you can use a sponge for this. You can use a tissue. Some yellow and purple, complementary colors. Okay. The next one is we're going to use salt. And the salt crystals, what they do is they'll absorb the paint, so it ends up leaving white specks into your wash. So you don't have any green on here. Let's use some green, huh? A little green in our life. And you have, just like the alcohol, you have to do it when it's wet. Okay. That dried really fast, didn't it? So what it'll do is leave those little specks in there. I don't know if you can see them on the camera. But these, let's see if we can zoom in. So these texture effects right there, those little salt crystals, they'll remain in there. So this is good texturing for like rocks, just interesting backgrounds, trees. A lot of cool things you can do with that one. All right, we gotta let that dry before you brush the salt off, okay? It's not gonna happen until it dries. So we gotta let that dry. Same thing with our next one, and that is the saran wrap here. Saran wrap or plastic wrap. This as well needs to be wet when you use it. Okay, so I'm gonna do my rectangle, take some saran wrap and wrinkle it up. I'm gonna press it down into that color, and hopefully this works correctly. Might need some more color on there. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna let this dry and then we'll come back and reveal what we got. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this was our wash. Okay, and this was the dry brush. This was the wet on wet. This is the splatter one. Okay, this was the alcohol one. You can see how it forced that purple to the edge right here and how it darkened. Okay, that was the texture one. We used the tin foil and the paper towel. The paper towel definitely works better than the tin foil. There's the salt one. You can kind of see the salt textures here. And like I said, I used pink Himalayan salt, and I don't know, maybe that's the reason why we didn't see as much white specks, but you can definitely see that there are the salt specks here. Usually it's a little more contrast in that. And then, so let me put this is the saran wrap one here. I ended up adding, I know I shut off the camera before I added red, but I added a little splash of red for contrast before I put it down. Okay. Sweet guys, thanks for watching.